Stasa23 here. In today's Knife Therapy, we have the BestechMan Dundee. This is a new sub-brand from Bestech Knives. They have three different brand categories. They have their BT line, which is their premium line of knives, their BL line, which is their mid-tier, and now we have their BG line, which is their more budget-friendly. I don't know the exact price of these. These will be released on October 14th, 2022. So I'm be interested to see that. If I happen to find out before, I would put it in the video now. This right here is a collab with Ostap Hel. I like a lot of his designs and they usually work rather well. This knife will come in 11, you heard me right, 11 different variants. I'm sure it's going to be like two-tone blades, all satin, maybe blacked out, not really sure. And you have different handle colors, and they're going to be using G10 and some micarta. Let's get the specs out of the way so you know how big this knife is. You have a total length of 8 1/8 inches, so it's a full-size EDC knife, kind of on that larger side. You have a blade length of 3.44 inches and a cutting edge of 3.48 inches. You have a grip area from this flipper tab all the way to the back right here of 3.8 inches. You have a pretty skinny handle scale thickness of 0.47. You have a pretty narrow width from here to here of 0.98 inches and a blade stock thickness of 0.126. The behind the edge thickness on my particular knife is around 17 to 18 thousandths, sharpened at 22 degrees per side. All right, let's take a closer look at this. My particular variant, you have a two-tone blade. You have gray on the flats and in this fuller. Hopefully that's coming out and it's like a stonewash finish. Then on your primary grind and the swedge, you have a nice belt satin there, a high satin finish. I guess I would call this a clip point, or you could call it a drop point, but it does kind of clip down right here, not straight from the back. So whatever you want to call it, it's fine. You have some well done, fine cut jimping that offers some traction. It fits perfect for my medium-sized hands. For larger hands, you may want it a little longer. I'm not, I don't know. I can't speak for y'all. You do have a sharpening notch right here, but it's not really clear in that plunge. You can kind of see it widen up just a little bit right there. The blade steel on this is going to be D2, and I think all the knives in this line will be in D2. Bestech has done an excellent job with their D2, and we're going to test this one out to see as well. The point on this knife is very nice and fine and needle-like right there, for doing detail work and for piercing potato chip bags and stuff like that. You have a high flat grind on this one that comes down to a reasonably thin edge. Now let's see how this bad boy performs. My knife came super sharp out of box and was slicing the cardboard with very minimal effort. The knife does have a pretty deep belly, so you may find that your blade will slide out of a cut when you're slicing through larger pieces of cardboard than I'm cutting right now. It did really well. The edge felt good. It was comfortable doing this light duty cutting. Now we're going to test the ergos and how the edge is doing at this point into this pine 2x4, where I start using very light pressure to see how it feels doing fine work, and then I'll ramp up the pressure to see how well it wants to bite into the wood. And I'm also checking for hot spots along the way. It did feel really good in hand. I had no hot spots to speak of. However, the handle is a little on the thin side, so I had to squeeze it a lot tighter than I normally would. Right away, I noticed the area near the tip was incredibly sharp. I mean, incredibly sharp. And doing these drag cuts through material was super easy. You have a good bit of belly, so slicing tasks with finesse is a breeze. Cutting down on the flat surface was super easy as well, and none of these materials were much of a challenge. until we get to the denim, and we'll talk about that in just a second. I added this nylon strap just to have something new to cut up. I doubled it up, and it put a smile on my face on how well this knife was slicing through this stuff. The bungee cord, it wasn't tearing it at all, it was popping it. You got to have a good edge, a nice clean edge to do that. The tubing was absolutely a breeze. It literally, that first one felt like a hot knife through butter, and the larger one with the nylon inside of it, no problem whatsoever. Watch how fast it blasts through here, and I was able to get really precise cuts with this knife. The belly helps that out a good bit, cutting on that flat surface. I was able to cut straight. Now this is the new denim I picked up the other day. I picked up a lot of it. This is 12-ounce denim, and I have it rolled tight. When I say it is a bear to cut, no matter what knife you have, and it is super, super rough on the edge. This knife manages to get through it, and it still felt good all the way to the end of this test. After that new denim, I was actually kind of nervous that that edge was kind of wrecked, but to my surprise, the edge had still a good bit of bite to it. I was using minimal downward pressure to get through the 1/2-inch sisal rope, which always puts a smile on my face because I hate cutting the sisal rope when the edge has no bite and it wants to just slide off the top of it. It makes my job a lot harder, and it hurts a lot more in my hands. The knife was comfortable in the pinch grip. I felt like I had good control, and I end up making 40 cuts through the 1/2-inch twisted sisal rope. I only stopped because this is the 5th knife I tested this day, and my hand was worn out, and I had a cut on the palm of my hand. So yeah, I'm a wuss, but it did it with ease. And I did notice though right here that all that downward force kind of slid the lock over. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed that, and I thought it did outstanding. Let's check out the edge after all that cutting. Yeah, that's what I thought. It still has a really good edge, even up there in the front. I'd say it has better than a working edge, like I'm making S cuts. So I'm definitely impressed so far. Now let's close it up and talk about one of the stars of this show, and that is this action. It's riding on ceramic ball bearings and a ceramic detent. Definitely an excellently designed flipper tab. It's canted in that direction. It's got that same fine cut jimping. So the light switch, this knife rockets out. And watch this closing. Butter. Super smooth, and no matter how you open the knife, you can push button it, but I find it to be much more comfortable and less thinking just to do the light switch. Now let's close it up and take a look at the handle. You have Peel Ply G10 that has a contoured effect because of these deep chamfers right here that go around. So it feels like the handle's contoured in hand. Whenever I was doing the testing, it was rather comfortable. I did notice though that it is a little thin in this dimension. Anytime I find that the thickness on handle scales is under 1/2 inch and you're doing a lot of heavier cutting, if the handle's not wide to fill out the hand, you tend to squeeze the grip a lot more, causing fatigue to the wrist and the forearm, just depending on what you're trying to do with the knife. You have a decorative pivot here, T8 Torx for the pivot. Your body screws and clip screws are T6. You have a deep carry pocket clip that is tip up, left or right handed. Let's check it out in the pocket. One thing I noticed right away is you do not have much ramp to that clip, and there's not a whole lot of space. However, my shorts, it went in just fine, and it goes in fine in my jeans. Now, if you're wearing thicker pants, it may struggle. That's all you have sticking out, and I found it carried well. It's stuck to the side of the pocket, and it's not super wide. Now, if you do put other things in your pocket, it will probably be hitting this flipper tab, but not an issue for me. Now let's take a look at the inside. You have a completely flow-through construction with inset stainless steel liners. As you can see there, just a small piece of stainless steel liner inside your G10. No skeletonization, but not needed because it's a fairly light knife. You have 2 standoffs in the back, and I'll say How these standoffs are set up, it kind of threw me off because usually you'll have one here and then maybe at the end, but as you can see, it's in the inside of there. I'm guessing if you want to tie a lanyard to this back one, you could, because that edge doesn't come close. I mean, it's right by that back standoff right there. If you want to clean this out with some compressed air or Q-tip, it should be rather easy. Now let's check out the weight. First off, in grams, 91.3 grams or 0.2 grams and 3.2 ounces. That is outstanding. It's under the ounce an inch that some people care about. Now let's take a look at the lockup. It is sitting at around 50%. The access to the lock bar is pretty good because you have this cutout and then you have this chamfer, so it's nice and comfortable, easy to push over. At least for me, I have no problems unlocking it. Something I showed in the testing though, there's not a whole lot of tension to this lock bar. I had no issues with it disengaging on me. I tested the lock. It was good. I can flex side to side just because of the thin nature of the scales. I have no up and down whatsoever, but when you're pushing really hard on this blade, a lot of upward force here, this lock travels over to about 100%. Now, I'd rather do that than slip the opposite direction and fail on me. So to me, that's not the biggest deal in the world, especially depending if this knife comes in under 50 bucks. I'm not super worried about it because you can disengage it and it'll go right back to where it was before. Now, they could possibly, you know, do something with the geometry or the tang right here meeting the stainless steel. Maybe it's a little slippery, I don't know, or not slippery because it doesn't come back on you. So I don't know. I'd love to hear what y'all think about that. For some quick size comparisons, we have the Ontario Rat Model 1 and Rat Model 2. It's in the between length as these two. You have more cutting edge than the Rat Model 1. Next up, we have the CJB Scoria and the Bestech Lion. Good size reference to the Scoria, about the same exact length. You have more cutting edge than the Scoria. You have about the same cutting edge as the Lion, but the Lion's a little bit shorter. Lastly, we have the Petrified Fish Beluga and the Sin Cut Snap. The Beluga is a little bit longer and you have about the same cutting edge as the Beluga. The Snap is very close in overall length. It's a little bit longer than the Dundee, and you have a little bit more cutting edge on the Sin Cut, just by a hair. All right, now for my nitpicks and complaints. First up, I'd love for them to increase this sharpening notch right here. So I'd have some sharpening light before it starts to widen up, causing a recurve in the back right here. Next, just a nitpick. I could do without the billboarding because you already have the decorative pivot for the BestechMan brand, and you know that's fine. But some of that stuff can be put on the box. I'm just good with the blade steel on there. Next up, the clip. I think the clip could use just a little bit more ramp, not a whole bunch, but just a little bit more, and maybe a little bit more area under here. That said, they did inset the pocket clip and the screws, so that's very, very nice work there. And that clip looks like one of Benchmade's clips. And lastly, the lockup. Like I said, it was safe, no disengagements, and even though I'd rather it, you know, travel over 100% than slip off the lock, that's still something that they could maybe try to work out from maybe beefing up the stop pin or something so the blade's not pulling back more, or fixing the geometry a little bit. Let's see, can I slide it over? Yeah, see, I can slide it over 100%. It's probably because either the geometry is a little too flat or the end of this lock bar is a little too slick. So one of those two, something that, you know, to me, it's not that big of a deal at a budget price point because this thing performed outstanding. It's got excellent action. Maybe they could beef up the liner or the lock bar pressure a little bit. You know, I don't know. They're the design engineers. I'm not too good with that kind of stuff. So there you go. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I can't wait to hear what y'all think about the BestechMan Dundee and this new Bestech line. If you have any questions, like I said, leave them in the comments. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.